Alright, guys. Welcome to Dogs 101. I'm your host, Nick, and let's just get right into it. 4th of July weekend is upon us, and it is now as good a time as any to talk about fireworks safety. Not just safety in lighting off fireworks, but safety as far as your dog. This is the day, this is the weekend, this is when the record amount of dogs end up escaping. Some of them come back, some of them don't. And so I feel like this is very important knowledge because 4th of July is not the only holiday that people enjoy shooting fireworks off. It's the most popular one for that, but there's always going to be certain times, like heck, in some areas, even Christmas, where they are going to light off a bunch of explosive fireworks, and this can frighten many a dog. And so I think that it's really important to just go through some steps to try and help keep your, your furry companion, safe and sane during this holiday. So, some things to think of right off the bat is prevention, prevention, prevention. It's so much easier than reaction. So be proactive instead of reactive. So, first of all, it's so important that your dog has, valid ID. The collar that holds the ID is not frayed, or the connection's wrong, or anything like that. Just make sure that that's going to stay on the neck. But even more so important is the microchipping, because some dogs are able to slip their collar, and if that happens and you don't have a microchip, it's very hard for if somebody is able to find them and try and get them back to their forever home. It's not the easiest thing in the world. So please microchip them. It's safe, it's easy, it's efficient. Almost every place that you can go to, any vet, any pet store, will have a little monitor that they can just go beep on the back of the neck and pull up the information instantly. Now, having said that, a lot of people will get the microchip and then completely forget to actually register it. So there'll be a microchip and they'll be able to get a serial number, but there won't be any info attached to it. It's amazing how easy this is to forget, because you get it done, you get home, it was a busy day, there was other dogs that the dog was trying to say hi to, and so you're like, I will get to it, you don't get to it, and then when your dog leaves, you're like, did we ever actually get around to doing that? No? And then now it's a blame game back and forth. So just, try and do preventative measures, generalized ones such as that. Now, other things to think about. So the main reason why a lot of the dogs will escape when the fireworks start going off, it's not because the pet parent didn't think of it ahead of time. It's because a dog, when properly scared and the adrenaline's running, will do things that they have never done before. So, oftentimes a dog will jump a fence or dig under a fence that they have been in for years and never have once dug out or jumped over before. You didn't even think they were capable of jumping over, like, the 6-foot fence. Trust me, if they're scared enough and they see the sky exploding and it's the end of the world and they don't know where you are, odds are they can clear that when they normally never could have before. That's something that's true about many animals, us included, that, when the blood's pumping, you're capable of feats that you previously hadn't been before. So, just because the dog has never jumped or dug under that fence before, don't leave them unattended when the fireworks start going off and assume that they're going to act as they usually do. Same thing being said for, like the collar and the leash. They might not have ever been able to get out of the collar before. They might not have ever been able to snap or chew through the leash before. You might have never had them chew through a leash in their entire lives. Fireworks start going off, they suddenly realize, hey, this cloth I can actually get through in about half a minute. So be thinking about that. And so the other thing is that a lot of times when they actually do escape, it's because you weren't thinking about it. You were thinking, okay, once it gets dark on the actual 4th of July weekend, that's when I need to make sure that they are, downstairs in their kennel, some music playing, or whatever you were planning on doing. But, that's something else, is like, they might be able to chew their way or even just, forcibly bust their way out of a kennel that they never have before. That's something that can be scary because that can easily injure them as they're doing that, escape. But a lot of people tend to forget that with holidays such as this one especially, so it's 4th of July weekend, you're only thinking about the actual 4th of July, but the entire weekend there will be fireworks going off. Some the day before, some the day after, because they didn't use them all up. Some of them during the day. You always think, okay, why are you shooting them off when, the sun hasn't gone down yet? But you're forgetting about firecrackers and, like the really bright ones that you can light off while you're waiting for the big show once it gets dark. So you basically want to kind of be thinking about your dog throughout the whole weekend, not just once it gets dark on the actual July 4th. So, just keep that in mind. It should be the whole weekend that you're kind of, on guard, and maybe even like the Monday afterwards. That, like I said, a lot of people have a lot of stuff where they're like, "Oh God, we forgot about this whole bag." Well, we're not going to let it go to waste. We're not going to wait till next year to shoot them off. So, a lot of times, before and after, you're going to find the unexpected, bangs and booms. So, something to be keeping in mind the entire time. Now, also speaking of prevention, one of the things that you can do is, again, be proactive about dogs and loud noises. So, for instance, with my dog, she's not really that scared of loud noises because she's been with me when I've been shooting. So, a firework way off in the distance is not nearly as loud and, surprising as, a firearm, close by her. And yes, I do always practice, the utmost of gun safety when, she's around. Don't worry. But, so one thing that you can do, is start desensitizing a dog to, loud noises. So this is when some preventative training will come in. And so what you can do, in fact, in a previous dog, I actually had a monsoon season that's multiple days in a row for a good week to a month of lightning storms, and so she did not like the loud bang noises at all. So what I was able to do is that when you smell it in the air, when you smell and see that a lightning storm is coming, what I would do is I would start making up retreats. So one thing that I like to do as a dog owner is I will varying treats and stuff, wrap it all up, put it in the freezer, and then when I, go to work in the morning, while she's, hanging out by herself, I'll give, her a frozen something or other. So what I did for, a good solid week, I guess, is that as soon as the thunderstorm starts rolling in, and I know that dogs can sense the, barometer pressure as well. So she would, be like, "Hey, you getting out the peanut butter? You getting out the dog treats? I know what that means." And so she'd be hopeful when that was in the air as opposed to, getting fearful. Cautiously optimistic, let's call it. And then what I would do is, give her one of those that I made up once the actual storm started. And then anytime that there was a big lightning crash, I would have a treat pouch, and I would go, "Yeah!" And I would just throw some, treats up like an explosion, but of treats. And then she would go and police all of the treats that are on the ground, and then we'd wait for the next one. So a lot of times they're looking to follow your lead. So if you're looking at them like, uh-oh, you're showing the signs of being nervous, and then you start focusing more and more on them being nervous, the more they feel justified that they should be nervous, and it's feeding into it, and they feel justified, and it just keeps on going and going and going. So what I did with her was I led by example. So especially if you're living in the desert, the occasional rainstorm is a great time, not a bad time. So I would, as soon as the rain started coming, I would swing the doors wide open. I would go out. I'd stand in the rain a little bit. I would be very visibly excited and happy that the storm was happening, and so she kind of didn't feel the same way, but would kind of put on a brave face because she saw how much Daddy enjoyed it, and so she would just kind of act accordingly. Plus, the explosion of treats wasn't bad either. So I admit I actually made a mistake where I overtrained. So it got to the point where if there was even going to be a little sprinkle, she'd be staring at me being like, "Where's the bone? Where are the treats? What are we doing here?" I mean, and I'm just, it's just a little, it's going to be over in 2 seconds. And she's just like, "Yeah, but we kind of trained for this." So, in a way, I almost overtrained her a little bit. But I guess I'd rather have a dog that's, constantly up my butt for treats whenever there's a rainstorm instead of trying to break through the screen door and take off, down the road. So it's something that you can do with the fireworks as well. So what you can do is, get a bunch of the little tiny, fireworks, and get them out, have them sniff the gunpowder smell, and just kind of start rewarding them with treats that way. Before you start setting some off, like I said, get them excited by getting one of their favorite treats ready and stuff. And so then what you just do is just light up a single firecracker. And then as soon as it goes pop, and then they do a little jump, you're just like, yeah, and then you just throw a little celebration treats up, and then you can kind of work on to Roman candles, because those are a little bit brighter and they have a longer trail. The squealy, all of that stuff you can start working up to. So then that way, when there's actually big, huge, grand finales going off at the end of the night, the dog, is just like, oh, more of the same, boom, boom, boom. So, it takes a little bit more work that way. I mean, there are some people that would just rather, stick them in the basement until all the fireworks are done. But this is what I'm suggesting in order to, just cover all the bases. So, one of the tools that you can use in your toolbox is a I can't remember if I've ever talked about it before, but it's the oh my god, I'm having a brain fart. It's that the comfort vest thing. So it's the calming vest where it's basically, and I'll remember it, but before I'm hoping. But basically, you put it on. It looks just kind of like a gray vest, and then you have these Velcros that you use, and it kind of tightens it on them. So it's almost like a compression bandage. And so what it does is when they breathe against it, they can feel that force. And it's almost kind of like a reassuring hug. It's almost like if you're having a panic attack and you breathe into a paper bag. It's just something to try and help slow down the breathing, help calm down the heart rate, help just get deep breaths in and out, nice and slow. And this is something that is scientifically proven to work. Doesn't necessarily work 100% on 100% of the dogs, but the science is there. And if I, would suggest anything, if it's something that you have used before in the past and it has worked for you, that one of the most important things to do is to not only break the thing out when there's going to be a scary moment, because then they see that, they see you break out that comfort thing, and they're going to be like, uh-oh, why are you bringing that out? You only bring that out during scary occasions, and then it loses its effectiveness. In fact, it becomes the opposite of the intended desire. They even see a glimpse of it when you're going to just wash it in the washing machine. They're like, why are you breaking that out? Why is it going in the washing machine? Is the washing machine going to eat me? So what you want to do is that every once in a while, on just a lazy Sunday when nothing's going on, put it on randomly. So that way they don't associate, oh, only bad things happen when I have this thing on me. So that's one of the ways that you can have that be kind of effective, a lot more of the time. And again, like I said, it might not work for every dog. The science is there, but every single dog's different. So most pet stores are nice that they'll actually give you a 2-month, a 2-month window to play around with it, whereas most retail only does 1 month, because most pet stores realize now it's like, okay, well, while some methods work for some, others might not work for others. And so let's say you spend all this money on a electric fence. That's another great example for the fireworks. An electric fence that, they basically just don't actually have a fence. It's a collar that, gives warning signals when they get close to the perimeter. It takes a while to get you and the dog used to the training for that, and if you decide, okay, it's just not for me, the radius doesn't work for my property, the dog figured it out, and now they can run off. Whatever reason, that's like $300 out of your pocket, so most pet stores are good enough to take that back from you. But now, having said that, that's another one that you might not have thought of. Yeah, they have stayed within their electric fence radius, for years. In fact, they really are trying to get to that other dog, but they go right up to the fence, and even though they see another dog or they see a squirrel, they don't quite break it. This might be the day that they break it, is when there's a firework going off. They're just like, well, what's a little, zap on my neck compared to what looks like, World War III. So, don't rely on just that, fence. Again, the fence, the leash, all this stuff that never has been an issue before in keeping them, with you. This might be the day that they actually break it, especially retractable leads. I can't stress this enough. I usually only recommend using retractable leads when you get to the field that you're going to play in and you want to play fetch, but you still want to have them, close by. Any other time, I always worry if you're going to be in a situation that they could potentially be yanking at the end of it harder than they normally would, and then that spring mechanism just breaking, and now they're taken off, and now you're just left holding a useless, disc of plastic. I recommend static leashes, ones that you can put the loop over your thumb, get a really good death grip on, maybe even tie it around your waist, so that that's really not going anywhere. But yeah, so retractable leads, be as effective as you're used to. Now, real quick, last thing, because this does kind of go hand in hand with it. The past year or so, a lot of us have not been as social as we normally would have been, and so now things are starting to, open up. We're getting vaccine, so a lot of people might be going to hang out in bigger crowds than they're normally used to, and not thinking about the dog. Now, the dog might do great with one-on-one people. They might not be so hot with crowds. It's a lot of noise, distractions. They're trying to, basically get a body read off of, 8 people at a given second, if it's a big enough crowd. So another thing that'll really help with the stress level, because if it is going to be a big boisterous party, people, yelling, laughing, drinking, throwing each other into the pool, and your dog hasn't been used to having more than 3 or 4 people in the household at a time, now, moving on up until like you're going to be going to a gathering, it's not a bad idea to start getting the dog used to crowds. So, again, with pet stores, you can usually go there with a dog, make your rounds, have them see a lot of people and dogs as distractions, and get them used to being able to see them. And yes, I love going up to as many people and dogs as want to say hi, because it's so great to socialize your dog. But just as important, if not more so, is kind of training the dog to pay more attention to you than when they happen to be going by a crowd. So what you could do is, a good place for this is usually the registers. So what you can do is, there's usually like, a little queue at the registers. So what you do is you get your treat pouch, and then you go past the line, and you just try and get the dog to focus on the treats. And they're not gonna. They're gonna pay more attention to the people, and that's fine. You just do another pass and another until they finally, do pay more attention to you. And then you can go over to the line and say, does anybody want to say hi to a dog while they're waiting in line? So the dog learns to eventually, get used to, okay, I don't have to say hi to literally every person that walks by. Big crowds might actually be boring, for me. Same thing with other dogs in the store. If they're trying to too actively, to say hi to the other dog, oh, we'll just go around this corner and we'll keep doing it. As long as you're not stressing the other person's dog out. That's the only thing, is that if I'm going to be walking around the store trying to use another dog as like a test subject, I'm going to be like, are you cool with me just kind of ducking around corners and stuff? I'm just trying to teach her that, not everybody has to say hi to her. And most people are okay with it if you explain it. But if you just look like you're kind of stalking them around the aisles, I mean, that could lead to a misunderstanding. So not just loud noise training and prevention and, making sure that all your ducks are in a row when it comes to, making sure if they do get away that they can be found again, but also, think about the crowd situation as far as, something else that could potentially make the dog already nervous. So the dog might not necessarily break their leash and run off because they're in a crowd, but now they might already be at a 7, and then as soon as the fireworks hit and that puts them over to a 10, that's when bad things can happen as well. So don't just think about the noise, think about the crowds. And I hope this helps. And please, definitely, if you have any questions, something that I missed, please put it in the suggestions. And be safe out there. And I appreciate you. I missed it. All right. It's always the awkward pause.